Good morning, you guys. I wanted to do this video, and I've actually wanted to do it for quite a while. But I wanted to jump on here and do this video to talk about natural farming. Um, and I felt like it's a good time to talk about it because of all the world events that we see that are going on. I've kind of talked about and hinted around some of these things on my page before, but I want to go a little bit more in depth about it. So here's what we do know. There's a conflict going on right now with Russia, and I don't know how many people know this, but they are, I think, one of the largest exporters of fertilizers or the components that go into fertilizers in the world. Um, there was already some shortages and I think they had like a block on exporting some of the things that are needed for synthetic commercial fertilizers. And that was going to be until like I think June or July of this year. But now that they're in conflict, there is a panic that's happening among farmers that there might not be enough fertilizers. So I know if you're a gardener, a farmer, you know why that's bad news. I think Canada is also a major exporter, and there's some other countries as well. So that's a shortage. Then we have glyphosate, which is bad. We know, we can all agree on that. But it is used heavily in major agricultural production. And so you have farms that rely on this in order to keep up with the world's food demand and to supply at a large level. If we're just honest with ourselves, people are not permaculture farming. Like, that's not a widespread thing. We wish that it was, but it's not. And so, that being said, the average home gardener, which is who I normally talk to on my page, in particular people who are beginners, I want to give you tips that would help you, and hopefully it won't take you as long to evolve in your thinking as it took for me. If you can only afford Miracle Grow, you can only afford to use the conventional products. I get that because it's hard when you first start out, or if you're a person that doesn't have access to a lot of money to do this, you don't have access to the things that are needed. But if you do have access to land and you are willing to think outside the box, I highly recommend transitioning more towards a form of natural farming or permaculture farming. And I would recommend this anyway, even if there wasn't all this global upheaval going on. I highly encourage people that I work with to do it as naturally as possible because it's just better for our bodies, it's better for our families, it's better for our communities, it's better for the planet. It's just a healthier way for us to grow food. And there are many, many ways that you can organically and naturally grow food in your garden. So I kind of want to go into that. Things that you can use. Vermicomposting is excellent. Worm castings. Earthworms are beasts. They will do the work for you. They will aerate your soil. Their poop is like black gold. It's great if you can do worm composting and then use that compost in your garden. Plain old composting is great. If you can do regular composting, if you don't have a tumbler, I started out with just a bin, like one of those Rubbermaid bins that you store a bunch of junk in the closet. You can put compost in there, put some holes in the bottom, and just turn it and work with that. Even if you're like on a patio in an apartment, you can do composting that way. Chop and drop. That is a permaculture concept. And essentially you are just, when your plants are done at the end of the season, you cut them at the base, drop the leaves. Those nutrients go back in the soil. The leaves act as mulch, and it helps to build up your soil, and it also doesn't pull the roots of the plant out of the soil to where you destroy the soil structure, all of the microbes and the insects and all the beneficials that are in there making their home in that root system. So that's a great way to build up your garden. Let's see. Use scraps. Everybody has coffee grounds, eggshells, banana peels, old rice, pasta, all kinds of stuff that we have in our kitchen. you can take those scraps and just put them in your garden or in your containers, let it go back into the soil. That will also add nutrients as well. I have on here animal manure. I would just say be careful. I know a lot of people like to buy the bagged animal manure. If you have the means to source it locally from like a local, I don't know, like a stable, a barn, or whatever, a farmer that you know, I would recommend doing that before you buy it. But if you have no option but to buy it, that's fine. The only reason I say be careful with that is because you don't know what that livestock was fed and how what they were fed was treated. So you could be bringing things into your garden that you might not want with the bagged manures. But if that's all you have access to, do what you need to do. No judgment here. Weed tea. So I have on here weed tea, and I have on here green manure. Green manure is essentially using plants that exist, things that we call weeds, which I call medicine, and a lot of other people I know call them medicines. But it's basically using those things in your garden to fertilize your plants. Mind you, let me make a little side note here. Typically when we're gardening, we think of NPK. So nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, right? But plants like us need a wide variety of nutrients and minerals and beneficial organisms and microbes and bacteria and all these things. A great way to do that is with green manure. So I have like some examples here, right here. Yellow dock. This is a medicinal plant, but you can also turn this into food for your garden. I have stinging nettle. This is another plant that is a great medicinal, but also can be used as a green manure in your garden. Burdock root. I love this. This is one of my favorite herbs. However, you can also use this to fertilize your garden. These things, when they get bigger, you can take the leaves, you can brew them until they, in like rainwater, until they get nice and stinky and slimy and gross, and then you can put them all throughout your garden. That water it in, and you have wonderful fertilizer for your garden, and it's all natural. Now, my kids and I, we garden together. It's a family activity, and one of the things that we had as a goal for ourselves was to close the loop on our garden. I set a goal a couple years back where I wanted to get to where I don't need any outside inputs for my garden, because I was kind of seeing where things are going, like where we are now. I saw it headed that way, and I was like, okay, what if I can't go buy what I need? What if I can't source these products because I have all these external inputs that I'm putting in my garden, and it's not always going to be realistic? What would my grandma have done? What would my great grandma have done? They would have used what they had, because they could not run to Home Depot and buy things to put in their garden. So they used what they had and they made it happen. Indigenous people have done this for years. Black and brown people, people in poverty, like this has been done for years. I think it's interesting how the term permaculture has kind of been hijacked. It is what it is. We're not going to get into all that. But people who have lacked resources have made do with what they had for years, and we can do the same thing. This is something that I really push. I want to encourage the next generation to learn how to do things naturally, use what you have, and basically grow as nature intended. So some of the benefits to this. We will have a closed loop, as I said, less inputs needed for your garden. You guys saw in one of my videos I was using EM1 in my garden. You can make that using rice, and I think like molasses or sugar. We have a lot of stuff right in our homes already, in our pantries, in our yards, that can be used, and that can kind of close that loop to where we're not needing to go out and source things and order stuff from Amazon and be all over the place thinking that we don't have what we need, when a lot of what we need is already with us. We can have stronger plants this way. We can have living soil. Synthetic fertilizers kill the soil. They create dependencies, they create dead zones. The runoff poisons the water supply, and there's a lot of things that a lot of other things that can come from our heavy dependency on these synthetic fertilizers, and we really just do need to like move away from being so dependent on that. We will be less dependent on stores because we don't have to source everything from a store. Again, use what you have to do what it is that you're trying to do. And we can create balance in our gardens. We want to have a healthy living balance in our gardens. We want to put that good energy into the plants. We want to be able to have the soil be as it should be. The microbes, the insects, everything should be in balance. You will see less pest problems. You will see less diseases. And you will have an overall better experience gardening. So I will stop there. But basically, I just wanted to make this video to encourage you, be aware of what's going on. This is not to create panic. It's not to shame anybody into how they do things. It's just to present food for thought. Think about doing it a different way, in a way that works more in harmony with the world around us, using what we already have, and not being stuck thinking, what do I do? I can't grow food if I don't have these fertilizers. Nature has already provided us with fertilizer. Use the natural fertilizers that are here and get creative and explore. It's a new way of gardening for many of us, because I know when I started out, Miracle Grow, garden tone on everything. And I've gotten away from that as I've evolved as a gardener and a food grower. So I encourage you guys to do the same, and I hope this was helpful in some way. And if you have any questions, as always, comment or send me a message, and I'm happy to respond. Y'all have a great day.